Hi, my name's Lindy and welcome to the channel. And the first of two short videos this evening is entitled The Importance of Boundaries for Sensitives and Empaths. The Importance of Boundaries for Sensitives and Empaths. Now, boundaries are important for all of us, for our health and well-being. But if you are particularly sensitive or empathic, even more so, because sensitive empaths really do fall into a category where we are notorious for having very porous boundaries. And it is certainly a story and a case that for all of my life, I've had very poor boundaries, and I've gotten better at boundaries since I've been older, but I'm still not 100% there yet. It's something I feel that you always have to work at, because it's surprising how many different ways people try to bend or step over or just smash through those boundaries. And it's a constant challenge, because most sensitive, empathic people are usually, by their very nature, because of the way they are, the way we are quite giving in our personalities, and we allow a lot of stuff. And because we're compassionate, we're empathic and sensitive, we allow people to get away with a lot more than perhaps we would if we weren't. And it's a very hard lesson to learn. And it's been one that's taken me a lifetime, and I'm only getting better at it now, because really, despite being someone that strongly fights my own corner, when I have to, I will put up a fight. I'm a Leo, so that part of me, I can be a sleepy pussycat, but then if you push me too far, I'll roar. But I have to be pushed a long way, because I'm not by my nature confrontational. There's a difference between standing your corner and being confrontational, and I'm not confrontational, but I am a huge defender of people's rights, and my rights, really. But that's been really the last few years that I've been sorting that one out. And it's very difficult, because you can have these empathic, sensitive qualities, and you can have people in your family and your friends and work colleagues and clients, that are in positions where those boundaries can be stepped over or eroded. So there's a difference, right, between taking the responsibility for allowing that to happen, even if we didn't mean to allow that to happen. And then there's a difference between actually addressing something with someone and saying, this is how I feel about something. Can you look at that and try and see it from my point of view and do something about it? Now, that's very different. So if you are noticing that you are having your boundaries eroded in your personal relationships or in your work relationships, or someone's continually stepping over the mark by their behavior, their actions or their inaction, the things they say or the things they do or the actions they're carrying out, it's one thing to know this but then not address it. And in a way, you're continually allowing it. And you could say to me, well, I'm in a difficult situation. I can't say to my boss at work, you're pushing me to do 70 or 80 hours a week and it's making me ill. I have to let him do that, because otherwise I'll be fired or out of a job. But there does come a point where, when it's getting down to your own health and well-being and how you navigate in the world, that it does get to a point within you where there's a line that is crossed, where almost, I would say, something has to give, otherwise something gives in you. So, I can give you an example of this, that there's a difference when something's building up in you and boundaries are being crossed. So that, for example, has been a long-term pattern in me. Certain boundaries will be crossed for a very long time before I finally do something about it, before I either finally notice or I let it build up and up and up. Now, that actually is my fault. I have to take responsibility for that, because I don't like going in and having, words over it. It takes a lot for me to finally say something about it. So for someone like me, when I have said something about it, whether that is to family, whether that is to friends or a friend, whether that is to work colleagues or clients, when I finally do say, okay, blah blah blah, I think that this is inappropriate behavior, or you shouldn't be acting in that way, or this is how I perceive something, I'm uncomfortable with it, can you look at that? And then the person still continues to do it. Now, that's a whole different ball game entirely, because then you have addressed those porous boundaries and that person or people stepping over it, and you have set out how you feel about it, and you have asked the person to look into it, or ask for certain things to change or it to be talked about. And if either they completely ignore it, or they say they're going to take it on board, but then they go and compound it even more so, then that's a different ball game again, because then that is someone knowingly and willingly, even though you've set that boundary, keeps stepping over it or smashing through it. And then, of course, you have a decision to make, because that is a gross lack of respect for you as a sovereign being or a human being. It's not a decent thing to do, is it? If you have set that out and said, this is how I see it, even if you can't see an ideal outcome, whatever the situation is, if you try and find a resolution, and sometimes you can't see an obvious resolution, and say, well, you can address the other person with that and say, look, try and give them a way of interacting with you on it as well. I mean, depending on what the scenario is, that's not always possible. But if they absolutely know where you stand with something and they still do it, well, then that's a whole different ball game. And this applies to any kind of relationship, whether it's romantic or, like I say, friendship, partnership, working, colleagues, whatever. Then, of course, is a whole different ball game, because there's a difference between you allowing people to keep stepping over your boundaries and you not getting up the courage or the strength or to go in there, or not knowing how to approach it and say something, so you're complicit in it, you're allowing it. There's a difference between that and actually laying down a boundary to friends, family, colleagues, or whatever, and then blatantly keep stepping over it. Then it comes down to a crunch point, a decision. What does that say about how they feel about you when they know how you feel and they keep doing it? At its very least, it is a gross lack of respect. And it's really them caring about themselves and how they look and how they feel over you who is supposed to be a member of their family, or you who is supposed to be a friend, or you who is supposed to be a work colleague, etc., etc. I came out with a saying a few days ago which would fit this really perfectly, which I posted up on social media. If they weren't on your leaf as a caterpillar, or if they didn't care to be on your leaf as a caterpillar, or if they didn't care about you as a caterpillar on the leaf, why do you want them on your flower when you're a butterfly? I think that says it all. Every sensitive empath, no matter what they're doing in life, they don't have to be working within the light worker industry. And I do hate that expression, the light worker industry. Let someone come up for something new with that one, will they? And it doesn't have to be that arena that they're working in. Whatever walk of life they're working in, everybody that is sensitive, empathic, have these kind of challenges with boundaries, people overstepping the mark, because we tend to be certain kinds of personalities. We do tend to be people pleasers, which is a whole different ball game. That's a whole different ball game, and yet it's interrelated to this, you know, where we do tend to want to help everybody and make everybody happy. And that can be in our personality. That can be a result of taking on responsibility or being brainwashed to be like that from very young in childhood. There's a number of different things in there. But it is important, I would say imperative to one's own mental, emotional and spiritual health to address this, and to address it sooner in your life than later. Otherwise you'll go for a lifetime of, really, in a way, I was going to say compromising, but I don't mean compromising in relationships. I mean compromising your own health and well-being. And what it will do is it will build up into a kind of resentment in you because it continues to go on. Really, in the course of a week, when I look at it, and I interact with a lot of people client-wise, but I don't really interact with that many people. Other than that, I have a sort of small, very tightly knit group, shall we say. Perhaps that's a Leo thing. We're very loyal and we expect other people to be the same. And if we get let down in that department, we kind of don't forget it. That's a astrological thing that goes with me being that sign. And what I would say is, when those people that you interact with, no matter what your star sign is or your personalities, when they cross certain lines, it is a big learning experience. And I have to say, those same characteristics that people have in them, like myself, we do easily, unless you kind of learn very early on, get inadvertently mistreated by people. And it's a balancing act not to get bitter about that and very hard about that, and almost to learn from it, like anything in life, and take it on board and address it. I mean, there are so many spiritual teachers out there, I mean legitimate spiritual teachers out there, that are empathic sensitives and have really gone through the school of hard knocks with lots of life experiences, teaching them that one. And on, like I was just sidetracked there, on a weekly basis, every single week, I'm always having to draw boundaries. In fact, I would actually say I was pretty relentless. Now, I look at it from 2 points of view here. It's a great learning thing, and I've had to fight my corner so hard in the last couple of years on every front, every single front. But I personally believe that when we do that and we get to that point within us where there's a tipping point in our consciousness, that we're actually templating or re-templating that empathic, sensitive consciousness within us. We're re-templating it so that although we might always have a predisposition to it, we are re-templating ourselves so that we don't allow it in the same way, take it on in the same way, but also that we don't pass it down genetically or epigenetically to the other members of the family, like our children. because it is a pattern. It is a pattern that you see in families, just like you can see other things in families, you know, like narcissism, and psychopaths and things like that in families, you know, both of which I have in my family. These patterns can be epigenetic, genetic, you know, handed down in consciousness. And what we are learning now is, as you become more conscious, they also become a template on behalf of the family, and you don't, the whole idea of that is to not continue particular patterns going down, especially if they're negative ones, but actually to bring that consciousness to a 0 point state of energy where it's neutral. And then as a neutral template, you can allow other members of the family to imprint on that, and other members of the public, if you like, to imprint on that, you know, friends, family, etc. first, those closest linked to you, so that those, what we formerly thought of as inherited personality characteristics or genetic or consciousness characteristics, don't continue. I'm just in my hair. Don't continue. I need a makeup artist to be handed down. So I'm just short and brief because I'm going to go straight on and do another one in a moment. So I hope that makes sense. It's something to be aware of if you know that you are empathic and sensitive. The earlier on in life that you get onto this, the better, really. And to realise that it's part of your own health and well-being, and part of you getting your consciousness to the level that you can get it to, that neutral state 0 point field of consciousness, where you can template and re-template these kind of things. So the sooner you get onto it and realize, actually, I'm always doing that, and I'm always allowing this, and I'm not comfortable with allowing certain things, and I've wanted to say it for ages but I haven't said it, or I've said it and I've made it clear and the people have still kept doing it, then you have to make a decision. Like I say, if they weren't interested in being on your leaf when you were a caterpillar, or they weren't interested in you as a caterpillar and they didn't take notice then, do you really want them on your flower when you're a butterfly? On that note, I'll love you and leave you. As always, thank you for watching. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. Thanks for supporting me as the channel in all the ways that you do. And I'm going to go straight on to another video now about synchronicity. So I'll love you and leave you. Thank you. Bye.